Welcome Leo to your in-depth year 2025 astrology forecast for the ascendant, the sun or the moon. I'm going to briefly outline how I'm going to structure the video. I'm going to tell you about two eclipses which occur in the latter part of year 2024. They're going to be very influential in the early months of the new year. I'm going to share with you on screen your event chart, your solar return at the start of 25. That's going to be very powerful right through the following 12 months. One big takeout from that is Mars is in your sign. Mars in Leo is a marvellous combination, but it is in retrograde, so I need to share that with you. It could be a little bit of a frustrating start to the year for you in some ways, Leo, because Mars is going to invert back into your 12th house on the 6th of January through to the 18th of April. The 12th house is very psychological, so as much as this year is a lot about growth, expansion, knowledge, travel, independence and adventure, you may find yourself having to clear up some loose ends early on. I'll explain the context of that. Now, since Neptune moved in 2012 into your 8th house, where you've invested financially or emotionally may have provided much magic or much dissolution and disappointment. What you're going to find from the nodal axis switch of the 11th of January is how you can make sense of this over the following 18 months. I'll unpack that for you too. A lot of activity at the start of this year is in your sister fire sign of Aries. Venus joins, Mercury joins, but they both go into retrogrades. It's very complex. You are going to have a potent solar eclipse, which occurs towards the end of March, but in the middle of March, there is a more challenging lunar eclipse, which is asking to think about the ins and outgoings financially, but also emotionally in your situation. However, Neptune, the planet of dreams, does move for the first time in 163 years to the sign of Aries on the 30th of March. This is a big story. It's also joined by Saturn on the 25th of May. The two are going to be aligning from the end of May through till the end of August. What does it mean? Saturn's not at its best in Aries. What is the combination going to represent for you? They both link back to the transformational energies of Pluto in your sector of relationships. What's the implication? You're going to have Jupiter, the planet of fortune, move into a very spiritual area on the 9th of June. I'll share about that with you. Then on the 7th of July, a stunning event when Uranus, the planet of disruption, of change and innovation, moves into the air sign of Gemini for 4 short months. But it does forge an amazing link back to the combination of Saturn and Neptune in Aries, but also to Pluto in Leo. This is a grand minor trine, a magic triangle, powerful beyond belief. But what's the implication for you? You do have in the middle of July Mercury going retrograde in your sign. However, on the 24th of July, there's a stunning new moon in your sign, which I need to share with you. We're going to have on the 1st of September Saturn return into Pisces, your 8th solar house. On the 8th, Uranus goes retrograde, and we're going to have 2 eclipses in September, which are very important. And also we're going to have the autumnal equinox. What's the significance of that? Then in October, Neptune rewinds back into Pisces, and in November, Uranus back into Taurus. So it's an interesting, fascinating year. I'm going to unpack all of it for you, especially Leo, so you can make sense of what this means for you. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. If you're new to my channel, it's lovely to have your company. If you have any thoughts, please share them. This is very much a community. If you're a returning visitor, it's great to have your company once more, and all your views and interactions are truly appreciated. About 50% of people who enjoy my videos regularly are yet to subscribe. If that's you, please help the channel to thrive. Click that sub button and also the bell notification symbol. Please take advantage of my unique year 2025 personal horoscope forecast promotion. If you order in 24, you'll get the rest of that year free, but in my special package of 30% off, you also get your life roadmap report. This will help you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far, get a much more intimate understanding of how these have played out and how you can work with them future forwards. But with your forecast as well, it's a fantastic amount of information, it's great value, totally unique for each person it's produced for. Please see the link below for more. If you'd like to talk to me personally, I am a consulting astrologer. Please check out my testimonials below. I don't edit these, as they come in, I share as is. Relationships are incredibly important for us all. Whether we want one or not, we have one with ourselves, our neighbours, our friends, our family members and our colleagues. If you'd like your relationships to work better, but use the power of Western tropical astrology, check out matchful.me. This app combines serious astrology with psychological profiling. It's not based on sun sign analysis. You can enjoy it by clicking on the link below, and if you type in Patrick in the coupon form, you'll also get an additional discount. So Leo, on the 18th of September 2024, there's a lunar eclipse, and this lunar eclipse is in the beguiling sign of Pisces. Pisces for you is where you connect in a very deep way with others. It's where you're most invested. But this particular lunar eclipse is very close to the shimmering, sometimes mesmeric energies of Neptune. But Neptune can also distort as well as heighten our perceptions. And since 2012, Neptune has been so active in this part of your situation. Have you encountered some big inspiring moments and connections, or have you experienced some very, very powerful disappointments and losses? I'll go through this with you, but this lunar eclipse is certainly asking you to test out what Neptune has meant for you since 2012. And on the 2nd of October, we get a wonderful, sparkling, potent solar eclipse in your 3rd house. The 3rd house is about quick communication, but the host Libra is about balance. And Mercury, the ruler of the 3rd house, is in the mix. Your communications can really sharpen up in the last part of 24, but also the first quarter or third of the new year. So expect a lot of extra text messages and emails, pinging backwards and forwards. It's going to be very stimulating. The balance of those two eclipses, however, is to convert your intellectual or fast-moving communications into understanding what they truly mean at a deeper psychological level. On the screen now, I'm showing your event chart at the turn of the year. The big takeout is there was a new moon as 24 came to a close. A new moon in the most virtuous part of your scope. The sun is always your ruler in the sign of Capricorn at this time of year, but the moon is there too. So this suggests throughout 2025, you're going to want to make sure that your home and overall life structure works pretty efficiently. So that may be something that you have an appreciation for anyway, but if you're someone who tends to be a bit more laid back, you're being asked to get more ordered. Now, it's also possible with the moon in your 6th house that you could think of working from home or even starting a new small business, particularly one that's service orientated. But we need to be mindful of the position of the planet in your sign, and that's the potent Mars. If you recall, Mars moved into your sign in the early days of November. It then went into a retrograde, and you can see it starts the year still in the retrograde. But Mars in your sign gives you a lot of desire to manifest your individuality. Mars is the planet which rules the ascendant. It's the ruler of Aries. So your need to show people your creative talents is going to be fierce throughout 2025. It's also opposite Pluto. Someone close to you may not agree with your plan. It could lead to a battle of wills. Or on the other hand, Mars opposite Pluto can heighten your desire to an incredible level. But let's look at the role of the North Node as it starts the year just still in Aries. But that's angling up brilliantly to Mars and also to Pluto. So it's a little bit of a hint about what's coming with the arrival of Neptune and Saturn in Aries. It's saying to you that knowledge is going to be very important this year, and certainly knowledge about your rights, or being more attuned to your right to be a free spirit. But certainly Mars in your own sign is a big boost for your ego, in plain language. But also with Pluto opposite, not everyone's going to handle what you want to do. And because it's in retrograde, not everything may go quite as quickly as you would like. But you do have, along with Pluto, Venus in your 7th house. It's great to have Venus in the 7th house because it helps us to let go of things sometimes, to not sweat the small stuff, to celebrate the things we have in common rather than just focusing on what's not quite perfect. So it's a good place for Venus to be. Now, Pluto opposite Mars is a heavy influence. It could lead to some battles of will. So what Venus can do is offset that a little bit, just help you to use a little bit of diplomacy here and there, which can be very valuable. But Venus is in a square with Uranus. It's possible if you're single, you could have an electric connection with someone this year through your work. Whether it's going to be long lasting or not is another matter. It's also possible that Venus squaring with Uranus could see you wanting to enjoy more freedom, and perhaps more freedom to work on an enterprise which you find really engaging and exciting. Because being a Leo, you're a fixed sign, so your stability is a big part of your nature, but sometimes your conservatism, with a small c, can stifle your individuality. So Uranus continues to push you from the start of this year to be experimental. Whether someone close to you likes that or not is another matter. Now, in terms of your social situation this year, Jupiter and Mercury are in a very bubbly opposition. They're both in detriment in technical astrology, and Jupiter is in retrograde. This opposition is suggesting really not to be too reliant on what some friends or even a romantic partner tells you, because Saturn's providing a very stiff right angle to Jupiter in your 8th house. So whatever anyone says to you, take it a little bit at face value, particularly if you are talking about money, investment, or a deep bond. So there can be some flirty stuff this year for sure. In fact, you could be attracting a lot of amorous attention, which is really nice. But I feel that in terms of your inner journey, this is a year which is a lot to do with exploring and getting more in touch with what makes you individual. So those are the energies that are playing out through the whole year. A lot of determination, a need to manifest your individuality, perhaps trying some different things work-wise. There can be some playful stuff, but when it comes to deep involvements and finance, that could be an area which is a little bit inhibited, but it's important to make sure all the details with the moon in the 6th house are working well for you all year. Now, on the 6th of January, Mars inverts back into Cancer, continuing its retrograde through to the 24th of February. This could be a part of the year when you do feel rather frustrated, particularly if you've set your intention with some New Year's resolutions that are very dynamic. Maybe there is some old stuff that still needs to be cleared up. Now, Mars only goes into a retrograde every 26 months, so it happened to happen to ask you to be the host this time, and therefore it's inverting back into Mars from your sign. So something that you may have started at the end of last year may tread water, and that could be exasperating. Things will pick up speed from the end of February, however, and on the 18th of April, Mars will return to your sign. So that's going to be a key date for you. But if you do encounter some delays, try to be philosophical about it, because the nodal switch on the 11th of January is very, very powerful. It's asking you to really try to understand and make sense of what the occupation of Neptune and Saturn in your 8th house has meant. So Leo, with that start to the year with Mars in your sign, but then going into retrograde on the 6th, the switch of the nodal axis on the 11th, which puts the emphasis on those shared resources and where you're most deeply invested, we then have a period of time when there's a lot of activity on the sign of Aries, which of course shares your fire triplicity. And that's all about the potential for travel, meeting new people, but also potentially weeding out the truth of certain associations, because Venus is going to be going into a retrograde. When Mercury moves into Aries, it too starts the first retrograde of the year. And therefore, March can be a time when you may find yourself reviewing certain connections. But if you have been thinking about doing a course of higher education, or going somewhere on business, or connecting with people who are a little bit different to you, it may be a period when you're exploring your options, but things aren't necessarily roaring forwards in quite the way you want. Now, things will start to shift on the 14th, when we have the second of the lunar eclipses going between the signs of Virgo and Pisces. This one's in Virgo, so it's a mirror of last September's eclipse, but it's very close to Saturn. So if there is a situation, particularly around business or those resources, where you need to be more businesslike, Saturn's asking you to make sure you reinforce your boundaries. And all that 9th house energy in Aries may see you needing to get some expert advice, particularly over a legal or contractual matter. Which brings us to the 20th of March. It's the start of the Western tropical astrological year. The Sun moves back into a sister fire sign of Aries, and that is going to give you some uplift. Mercury and Venus are very close. There may be part of you that wants to be more independent and freedom loving from that burst of energy, but then we have the final solar eclipse in the series between Libra and Aries. This one in Aries. This is your opportunity to really go for it if you do want to be more galvanized, more thrusting and more adventurous over the next 6 months. But then Neptune joins up with the sign of Aries on the 30th of March, to be joined by Saturn on the 25th of May. So really from the last week of May through to the end of August, the two are together, but they're both linking back to Pluto in your sector of relationships. You may find yourself wanting to break the ties that no longer are fulfilling, because remember, Saturn in the sign of Aries is not its best location. It is in full, but it's going to make you quite the truth seeker. And if someone isn't coming up to your standards, you're going to scrutinize them carefully. But equally, the imagination of Neptune can give you the push to try some different things. So in some ways, they're like counter energy. But as they move forward, Saturn in its alliance with Pluto can make you very strong-willed about certain plans you have. And if there is someone that you feel you can connect with and do business, the chances are it can be a tie that's really welded together with a lot of strength if it feels truthful and right. Now, Jupiter moves on the 9th of June into Cancer, which you remember Mars was very influential in through to the 18th of April at the start of the year. So that created a lot of potential for you to look at old stuff that maybe had been challenging If you have been thinking about connecting to someone, perhaps an expert or a source of knowledge that can expand your psychological understanding, Jupiter moving into this area for the next year can be a great asset to you. If you are someone who's very much into healing, going on retreats, meditation, or visiting places that are very peaceful and calm and tranquil, Jupiter moving here is a great place for it to be. But then we have that very powerful change with Uranus moving on the 7th of July. But I want to tell you that on the 20th of June, we have the second of the cardinal quadrants. This ushers in cardinal quadrant 2, the next 13-week period. For you, this is your 12th house. But that 12th house energy is squared off by Saturn and also Neptune in 9th house. Something could come up, therefore, from the 20th, and also on the back of the Cancer new moon of June the 23rd. So as much as Saturn and Neptune can be about knowledge, knowledge could come up which is linked to your past, or it could be linked to growing your psychological understanding. But it could be a very sensitive time, to be honest. And once on the 7th of July, Uranus moves into Gemini, which in itself is very bright and bubbly and forges a dazzling link with Pluto in your 7th house, there can be some connections to new, exciting people. But somehow or another, I feel that that nodal axis moving into 8 and this very powerful energy with the summer solstice and the Cancer new moon accenting the positions of Saturn and also Neptune could bring up a lot of stuff that maybe you could find a little more painful if there are outstanding psychological issues that are still very deeply active within you. We all have a subconscious. Very few of us are completely aware. Some people might claim to be very aware, but it never fails to amaze me how much our bodies can hold memories. Sometimes, for example, we can smell something and just think, oh, wow, I haven't smelt that for years. Or we hear a clip of music and it's very, very emotional and really triggers a memory in a very powerful way. So that's the kind of stuff that I think you may experience at that time. But just know that despite the fact that there is a Mercury retrograde in your sign from the 18th of July, which could again slow things down a little bit, the new moon in your sign is absolutely cracking. It's really epipescent. It forges a terrific angle to Uranus, a great angle to the position of Saturn and also Neptune. Perhaps a more challenging one to Pluto. In the following month, you can get more on the front foot than of the time of the Cancerian new moon, but you just need to be aware, just like from the start of the year, that whatever you want to manifest as an individual, not everybody is necessarily going to be in agreement. But then again, it could set up a sizzling encounter with someone who makes your pulse race, who actually you find quite challenging, but also very intriguing. August the 10th sees Mercury go direct in your sign, which is obviously to be welcome. Now, on the 1st of September, it's back to the future. Saturn returns to the sign of Pisces. We've also got on the 6th, Uranus goes retrograde in Gemini. The 7th, a lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. This time very close to the North Node. So this is the second of the two eclipses. If you remember, we had the first one on the 18th of September 24. But on the 21st, we have the solar eclipse in Virgo. So this is the one that's asking you to really, really set your framework out in terms of the ins and outs around your resources, because on the other side of the heavens, Saturn is very, very close to the North Node, and this is really the theme of this year. I feel a lot of astrologers will put the focus on Neptune and Saturn being in your ninth house, understandably, but it's the nodal axis asking you to really come up with the outcome for all the energy that you've inputted since 2012 where you've been hugely generous. Leo people can often be very, very giving to others. Have you always felt truly appreciated? So I feel that you're going to toughen up this year about the ins and outs about resources. You may have found since Saturn moved into Pisces in March 2023 that one source of income that had been reliable in the past has dried up. But these eclipses this year are pushing you to create a new framework which is workable for the long term. The energy darting into Aries can see you exploring, but it needs to be exploring with meaning, with a firm outcome. And that's why I'm saying to you, with your solar return, with Jupiter and Mercury in an opposition but squared up with Saturn, whatever you're talking about, however interesting and tempting it may be, take it back to the money, or take it back to how sincere someone is. Don't get too caught up in the fluff, basically. So the eclipses that occur in September are really asking you to juggle the ins and outs, whether it's how much effort and energy and devotion you put into a situation, or how much finance you're putting into situations. But there needs to be a fair exchange. And sometimes it's nothing to do with money. It is just to do with that single word, respect. Because sometimes it's not the actual thing we input. If someone doesn't have much, but they still try their hardest and really appreciate us, that's just as valuable as someone who's hugely over the top generous, but actually it's a tiny amount of money for them personally. So it's more about the principle. The autumnal equinox of September the 22nd reflects that solar eclipse that you had last year on the 2nd of October. So this is very much about things speeding up, lots of interactive conversations. The 22nd of October, Neptune returns to Pisces, and on the 8th of November, we have Uranus returning to Taurus. So that's really this year for you, Leo. It has huge possibility from your solar return, but I think the key, the really important key, is the nodal axis. That's really asking you, along with the new eclipse series, starting in on the 18th of September 24 and going into the new year. So we've got 3 more eclipses going between Virgo and Pisces. That's really what's important. And the stuff that's going on in Aries may be a little bit tempting, interesting, fascinating, but it's taking the knowledge and information you gain, but bringing it back down to value in it. This can be a year of alchemy for you. You can turn things into something magical and brilliant, but you're going to have to be very hardworking, very persistent, and very clear in what you want to achieve. And I feel there's still some stuff rattling around in the depths from your past that you may need to rinse away first, but this year will help you, and then you'll be set fair to really attack 2026, which will be an astonishingly powerful year for you, particularly when Jupiter joins you on June the 18th and forges a stunning angle to Uranus, to both Saturn and also to Neptune, and back to Pluto too. Have a great year, take care, and goodbye.